here's another person's Drekkana. Unlike the other two Drekkanas we saw, this person's Drekkana is a little more adverse, as you'll see pretty easily. To start with, looking at the Drekkana deities, we've got the Sun and Mars in the Narada Drekkana, so those are the more creatively centered planets, the ones that want new things. The Sun, however, is debilitated, and it's aspected, right away, and in a natural enemy sign, so that very much starves the Sun and makes it stressed out. The Sun gets some help from the Moon, 49 points from a Moon who's strong by being in its own sign. Mars is aspecting as a friend, but Mars is in a natural enemy sign, so he's sleeping and can't help. Jupiter's aspecting from a natural friend sign, so he can help to a little bit. And then Saturn's aspecting from a natural neutral sign, and he's an enemy to the Sun, so he's hurting. So overall, the Sun is more starved than it is delighted, though it does get a little help from the Moon. The Sun rules the 6th house and the 10th house. So 6th and 10th house things, overcoming material struggles, career-centered things, big goals that they might have, which are 10th house, the desire to do great things, 10th house things. Those things, there'll be new of those types of things that come to this person because there is, the Sun is in the Narada Drekkana. However, those things will always leave them unfulfilled. They won't ever pan out to the degree that they want to due to the fact that the Sun is too starved. And that's how it's been in this person's life. They are an ambitious person. They get new ideas to be ambitious. They start new careers with a lot of enthusiasm, and there are always new things that they wouldn't have expected themselves to do, just as we'd expect from a Narada Drekkana. But then, these things never completely give the expectations or the success or usually the level of fulfillment that they want, and so they don't end up being really great things in the person's life. So the person has started lots of things that they thought would be great, but none of them ever really were, due to that unfortunate Drekkana placement of the Sun. Okay? The other creatively active planet is Mars. Mars is in a natural enemy sign in Virgo. It's helped by his friend to 39 points, which is good. It's neutral Saturn's influencing him, so that won't really matter. Then Mars in the Rashi is conjunct Venus and Mercury. Venus is a natural neutral, so he's not going to help or hinder Mars. Mercury is a natural enemy, though. So Mercury is going to hurt Mars in the Drekkana, and Mercury can hurt him a lot because he's in a natural friend sign. So this is an extremely starved Mars. Okay, a very much extremely starved Mars. Does get a little help from the Moon. Luckily, 39 points from a good Moon, so that does help a lot. But still, it's a 2/3 starved Mars. And so again, creative things that they focus on, that they put their energy into, which is Mars, never give the level of fulfillment that they want to. New things that they approach with their fiery ambition of the Sun and Mars never give the success or fulfillment they expect it to have. Okay? Now, Mars rules the 9th house, the 5th, and 8th house. So all those types of things do that. This person was heavily involved in teaching, which is a 9th house thing for a while. That was one of their fiery ambitions. But again, it never gave the level of fulfillment they wanted to, and they moved on from there. 5th house is children, so they dealt with children. Again, it didn't really give the hope for. 8th house has to do with, multi-level sales type things. They involved themselves in those too with a lot of ambition, but again, it never gave the fulfillment they wanted to. So it's both their fiery, ambitious planets, the Sun, the King, and Mars, the General, are really always trying new things, but never finding fulfillment in them because of this. These bad, the planets are simply not supported in the Drekkana, unfortunately. So things just never go in line with how they want them to be. And again, Mars is such an important planet in the Drekkana. He represents really how we do exert what's in our consciousness. With discipline and focus and strength of, that gives a solid conclusion, or with an attitude that can be maybe overly excited at first, but then when push comes to shove, sort of lets things float and let things fall apart. And that's more how this Mars goes. Mars is a planet that's meant to have staying power. Mars is exalted in the sign of Saturn in Capricorn. So Mars is a planet that's meant to have staying power. He's not just a planet that's supposed to just do something. He's the general. The general has to be there for the whole battle. And he has to pay attention the whole time until the victory is there. And when Mars is, starved like this Mars, then our person may have really strong ideas and opinions about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They oftentimes don't have really the strength to follow through and the logic to continue onward. One of the things of Mars, he represents logic. And if we approach something logically in our life, it makes sense, and then we do it, we're much more apt to continue it. A starved Mars tends to approach things illogically, meaning it approaches things out of reasons that aren't completely logical. And over time, therefore, those reasons really aren't valid reasons, and so things fall apart. Okay? Mars has to do with two things. It has to do with our logic, which is an aspect of our intelligence, one of the 5 aspects of intelligence, that helps us see the truth and do the right and truthful thing. Mars also, however, represents our opinions and ideas about things, which are not based upon any really logical truth, but simply upon our whims and our needs and our hopes and our beliefs, none of which may be true. Hopefully they are, but they may not be. They're only true if they're logical. If they're not logical, they can't be true. So, starved Mars, or an afflicted Mars, is a Mars that has its opinions based on its perceptions and its ideas and hopes and beliefs more than on the simple logical truth of the matter. Okay, the logic of the matter, which is always the truth. And so then that Mars, of course, is going to constantly do things that don't make sense, that aren't logical, which aren't truthful, although the person will believe it's the right thing to do, but then be shown that it's really not the logical, which means the truthful thing to do. And that's how it is with this person. Sri Yukteswar used to say, if it's not logical, it's not true. And that's a really valid statement. So this person has these problems with their Mars, unfortunately. Really strong, opinionated ideas that they expect others to fulfill and that they try to fulfill themselves. But these ideas and opinions never pan out, never provide any fulfillment because they're simply not based on logic. They're just based on their belief or perception. Okay, and then we've got some Augusti Nakshatra, or Drekkanas. The Moon and Venus are in Augusti Drekkanas. So these are the ones that want to maintain the consistency and security in life. The Moon is a great planet. All in all, he's in his own sign, aspected by his Sun, who's sleeping, so can't help. Mars, his other friend, who's sleeping and can't help. Mercury, his friend, who is in a good dignity, gets 39 points. By Jupiter, his neutral, and by Venus, his neutral. So this is a good, delighted moon. Okay? And because of that, this brings a virtue. Remember, when the moon is on a planet's in its own sign, it makes one virtuous. Especially when the moon is in its own sign, right? We like that moon in a good Drekkana. And the moon's in the friendly or own Drekkana, the person is virtuous, according to that yoga we learned. And this person has really nice qualities. They're really sweet. They're really likable. They're very comfortable to spend time with. It's the kind of person you can instantly like because they have that moon. They have that really cherishable lunar quality that makes them just a really enjoyable person to spend time with. That's a great quality trait. Now, the moon, however, doesn't rule any bhavas in the Drekkana. Unfortunately, because if it did, it can give some greater consistency to some things in their life. Okay? But because it doesn't rule any bhavas in the Drekkana, it loses something where it could give a lot of security. Okay? So you can say the person's security comes from there's just sort of, meaning where they're consistent at, where you always can expect them to be a certain way, is with just their innate personality, which is the moon. Okay? The moon also rules the 5th house here in the Rashi chart. So we could look at the 5th lordship of the Rashi chart and then take it over to the Drekkana and see, oh, the 5th lord from the Rashi is in, a good Drekkana, so it can give more consistency of effort and the reason I say consistency is because it's in an Agastya Drekkana, and find more security in 5th house matters. And that's been true for this person who's always been very consistent in their spiritual practices. They haven't been that consistent with their spiritual teachers. As we've seen, the 9th Lord, Mars, is a bad planet, a troubled planet in the Drekkana. But they've been very consistent with their spiritual practices. So they daily make time for that. They're never one to miss their spiritual practices. So they have a lot of security from that element of their life, and they try to maintain that in a way that's not threatened. So the moon's a good planet. It just would be nicer if it also ruled a good house cusp in the Drekkana so that it can give more consistency and security in life. Okay? But the moon makes them a really sweet, natured, kind person. That's really a nice person to spend time with. Okay, the other Agastya, however you want to say it, Drekkana is Venus. Venus is in a natural friend sign in Capricorn, so it gets some delight there. But then Venus is smashed by the moon to 58 points. He's helped a little by Saturn to 11 points. But that's a pretty big dose of misery from the moon. All in all, it works out to be about equal, because the moon's in its own sign, so his strength is really strong to hurt Venus. So this is a 50-50 Venus about. Not a great Venus. But it's not terrible. At least it has some help of Saturn. So, relationships is something they want to have an element of consistency in. Well, it'll be okay. It'll be average. Okay, it won't be wonderful. It'll be average for the security they can find in partnerships and relationships. The other thing, Venus, whenever Venus is influenced by Saturn, we kind of think of it being funny oftentimes. We think, well, Venus, this planet of love, has a friend, Saturn, who, when he aspects him, actually helps him, because we're trained to sort of think, oh, Saturn's going to really ruin your love life. But what it is that Saturn makes Venus stronger. Okay? Saturn makes Venus be able to love stronger, where it understands the worth of real love when it's aspecting it. So it matures that quality of love and romance, so that a person really knows when they have something good, that it's really something good. Otherwise, it's easy for Venus, when he doesn't have the helpful friend of Saturn influencing him by aspect, for Venus to really not appreciate what it has when it has love. Where Saturn aspecting it, if Saturn can helps Venus appreciate the love he has. So it just sort of matures Venus. Otherwise, it's easy for Venus to, always expect more from love. And the truth is, on planet Earth, love only gets so good. And Saturn aspecting Venus helps Venus realize that. And once we realize that, our love life improves. Without that Saturn, we may not really realize how good we have it, and always therefore look for more, expect more, and ruin things. Okay? So if Saturn's good there, but then the moon, which is the ego, the self, and the own personal needs, oftentimes are going to disrupt that, that fair relationship urge of Venus. And it has, okay, for this person at times. So it's a mixed Venus. Venus rules the 2nd and 11th house, and the 3rd house. Well, we'll cover the 3rd house in a little bit, but looking at the 2nd and 11th houses, those have to do with finances and money, income. And this person's always managed to draw a good, solid income. Everything they touch, every new job they start, they're able instantly to pull money together and find financial security. So Venus has very much helped them have financial security in most respects, okay, because of this, Augusta Drekkana. So they're always paying attention to maintaining their finances, as we'd expect with an Augusta Drekkana. Okay? Alright, now, the most important planet in the Drekkana is Mars. And as we've seen, they have a starved Mars. So that means they're going to have, be motivated by their ideas, opinions, and beliefs, and not necessarily by what logically is really the right thing or sensible thing to do, the thing that's going to really work. And so the person will oftentimes start things in a way that just doesn't work out. Okay, so the expectations they have, they try to fulfill when they try to exert their will, and also in working with others don't often pan out. So they do find disappointment with their associates and working with them. They can be a little opinionated and overly assertive with respect to people they associate with. There's a stronger insistence of things being done the way that they think they should be done. And all these things sort of imbalance their relationship with their associates. It's really not a good Mars. Most important Baba is the third Baba. Let's look at that. Aspected by debilitated Sun, the 26 points. By the Moon, who's helping a lot, the 45. By Mars, who's in a great enemy sign and therefore hurting, the 10 points. Helped by Mercury to 21 points. Helped by Jupiter 6. Helped by Venus to 17. And actually, hold on, helped by Jupiter 6. Venus is in a neutral sign, but he can help a little because he rules the third Baba. Saturn's in an enemy dignity. He's in a natural neutral sign, but enemy dignity. So he's going to hurt the third to 29 points. So it's a mixed third Baba. We have some troubled aspects of the Sun and Saturn, some helpful aspects of Moon and Mercury. And also Mars is hurting too. So the third Baba is just so-so. So with respect to their associates, they don't really attract the best associates, the best people for working things out with. Half the time they do find disappointment with people that they're working with. More than half the time, however, because Mars is in such bad shape and gives a weak foundation to the Drekkana. So this is definitely a person who finds themselves, things falling apart with their associates quite often and not working out as expected and having disappointment in that area in their life. They also happen to be a single child, which of course, sort of indicated to some degree by the bad Mars and the Drekkana and the troubled third house. And that's going to reduce their practice of working with associates. They never really had the practice that you get with your siblings. So, not a great third Baba. The third Lord, Venus, is just so-so. He's in a friend sign, helped by Saturn, his friend, but then he's really starved badly by the Moon. So it's really a somewhat less than mediocre Venus because it's a big hit of a strong Moon. So again, it's hard for her to separate out her needs, which is the Moon, from the mutual needs of the team or the associates. And so, things get disappointing with the people she works with and has to do things with. And she oftentimes feels like she just does a better job when she's all alone. Okay? Unfortunately. So we see an afflicted third Baba here. The other important Baba is the sixth Baba. Where is that? That's over here ruled by the Sun. The sixth Baba is, here's the sixth Baba cusp in the Rashi conjunct Jupiter. So the sixth Baba has Jupiter influencing it. Jupiter, fortunately, is the, in a great friend sign. So Jupiter's helping that sixth Baba a lot. The Sun would hurt it, but he's the ruler of the sixth, so he can't. Moon helps at the 12. Saturn hurts at the 44. Okay? So Moon and Jupiter are helping more than Saturn's hurting it. So it's about 65% good, 35% bad or so. So it is a decent sixth Baba. So that will help her, that helps reduce the, the worst case problems with people. She's never had associations when they become enemies or something like that. She's usually ends her associates, and the associates that disappoint her, she's able to leave them on friendly terms and not with a lot of bitterness, because that sixth bhava, fortunately, is in pretty decent shape. Okay? The sixth Lord's Sun is in bad shape as far as being debilitated, but it gets a little help from the moon and a little help from Jupiter. Then he gets hurt by Saturn. So he's a little more starved, but he's not totally starved. And then the sixth bhava itself is better than average. So it's not as in bad a shape, say, as the third bhava, which seems to be in worse shape. So it does reduce the worst case scenarios of really having serious quarrels or litigations or hatred amongst their associates when things don't work out. Shows some ability to work through difficulties with associates at some points, but it's still not a great thing. If you're sort of getting the message, there's nothing really great in this Drekkana, unfortunately. And because of that, this person, the older they get, the more they think they just need to live their own life. Because, things don't work with respect to their associates. They don't have a lot of happiness with their associates. So to keep trying to do things and have goals with other people just seems sort of not worth the effort over time, because we don't have a really great, Drekkana here. Okay. Ninth bhava. Ninth bhava is over here in Aries. It's influenced by the Sun, who's hurting to 22 points. Moon, who's helping to 15. Mars, his Lord, who can't help, unfortunately, because he's in a great enemy sign. So he helps just barely, to negligible nothing, pretty much. Mercury helps at 34 points. Jupiter helps a lot. Venus helps a lot. And Saturn hurts. So there's some good things to the ninth bhava. Okay? It's a little bit better than average. So that means with her associates, she can definitely come up with goals that they can work on and focus on. But when we look at the ninth Lord, Mars, we've seen, is trash. That ninth Lord Mars is trash. So the ability to actually fulfill those goals and find happiness there is not that high. So again, nothing great in the Drekkana. There's just nothing really good here. In this Drekkana. Okay? Unfortunately for this person, it's just a really mediocre Drekkana. So a person who has the sweet nature of the moon, the virtuous sweet nature of the moon, very expressive personality that makes the person really enjoyable to be with, so they have all that. But it really comes to this person working in conjunction with another person to bring what's in their mind into reality with another person, to work with their associates or teammates. Things are not very fulfilling. Okay? There's some good enough stuff in the Drekkana that's not disastrous. They don't end up hating the people. They don't end up getting hated. They don't end up being at war or going to court. But they never have the fulfillment they expected. And with the creative new ventures that they have, influence given by the Sun and Mars, who are in Narada Drekkanas, they never quite have the fulfillment they expect because those plants are way too starved. They do better maintaining, Venus and Moon, just sort of maintaining their finances, taking care of themselves. They find, more security and value in that. Those things will work out better. Mercury is one of the better planets here. Mercury is in a great friend sign, so he's delighted. But then again, actually starred by his enemy Moon. So Mercury's just so-so. Jupiter is probably one of the better planets, actually. Jupiter is also in a Durvasa Drekkana, so it's showing transitions and changes and the growth that can happen due to those changes. Jupiter is influenced by neutral Moon and neutral Saturn, but he's in a natural friend sign. But then his friend is sleeping. So again, Jupiter's just so-so too. So there's just nothing great in this Drekkana. It's nice to find something great in the Drekkana, because that's something the person can really run with in this lifetime. Something new that they can really make the most of. something they can really find a lot of security, or something that they can just really make a huge amount of growth through. And this person, it's all either neutral or bad. So none of that's there. They just don't have a good Drekkana. And that becomes frustrating in general, because the Drekkana is about what's in our mind and making what's happened in our mind happen in real life. Okay, about getting that concrete result of what's in our mind. What's our consciousness wants to bring into reality. And the creative energy, or the destructive energy, or the maintenance energy necessary to make that thing happen in a concrete way, and then dealing with the people that we need to deal with in order for that thing to happen. Everything we need to do, we have to deal with people, pretty much. We always have to associate with somebody to do anything. Those things that are in our consciousness never meet with full fulfillment, or with any great level of fulfillment in any respect. And that over time becomes a little frustrating, because it seems like no matter what you envision in your life, you're never able to make it really happen in a harmonious, smooth, and fulfilling way. And that's really much been this person's life. They have a lot of vision, because at least they have this nice moon, but the moon is just, it's in its own sign, but it's just not doing that much. The only thing it's helping maintain in their life is the vision of their 5th house, which is spiritual practices. And that's really the most, the only thing in life that hasn't really been frustrating to this person in some respect. Okay, it's given the greatest fulfillment. Other things have been mediocre fulfillment, or much less than mediocre. Okay? Alright, let's look at some other things with this person's Drekkana. The forms of the Drekkana. What's this person's Drekkana? It is the first Drekkana of Pisces. Pisces' first Drekkana represents a man decked with ornaments, holding in hand sacrificial vessels, pearls, gems, and conch shells, and crossing the ocean in a boat in search of jewels for his wife. So, here's a person who, sacrificial vessels, pearls, gems, and conch shells. So here's someone who does have the capacity to make sacrifices in life. Okay? They're decked in ornaments. That means they have a lot of qualities. And it's true, this person has a lot of qualities. Intelligence, charm, just lots and lots of qualities. Nice thing. They have sacrificial vessels. They can make sacrifices of the valuable things in the life of pearls, gems, and conches. They're crossing the ocean. Well, crossing the ocean is always someone who's in some sort of spiritual quest, of course. In search of jewels for his wife. So that's an interesting thing. Jewels for the wife symbolizes fulfillment for the feminine half. Okay? Fulfillment in the feminine or lunar half. Okay? And that's very much true of this person. This person's really looking for their feminine side to be fulfilled through their spiritual quest. They have made a lot of sacrifices. The moon, fortunately, helps them with that, because it rules one of the spiritual houses in the chart, one of the house of spiritual practices. These qualities are definitely there in this person. Decked with ornaments, yes, lots of qualities. Ability to make sacrifices, on a spiritual search, and very much trying to fulfill the needs of their feminine side in search of jewels for their wife. Okay? Let's go back to that a minute. That was Pisces' first Drekkana. Okay. The first Drekkana of Pisces is a water-bearing Drekkana. So it is a emotionally centered Drekkana. Again, in search of jewels for his wife, trying to fulfill the feminine emotional side of their psyche. Okay? So that's a very noticeable quality of this person. Now the moon's Drekkana, and also types of Drekkana, that's what I wanted to show you. According to this Jataka Parigita, the person born in a water-bearing Drekkana will be liberal, voluptuous, compassionate, bent on agriculture and irrigation, and void of morality. Well, that's true in this person. They are liberal, definitely. Voluptuous, actually they happen to be. Compassionate, yes. Void of morality, yes, again, they're emotionally swayed by things, and they have done things that aren't in line with their belief system because of their, again, strong emotional nature. Bent on agriculture and irrigation, no, that really hasn't been a factor in their life. The reason they say that is because it's a water-bearing Drekkana, and it's about growing things, okay, with water. Symbolically, we can definitely say, yes, they want to be irrigated, they want greater emotional fulfillment, they want to fulfill their watery nature, their needs. But on a practical side, no, this person has anything to do with agriculture or irrigation. But the rest is true. Okay, the moon's in its own Drekkana makes them virtuous and handsome, that's true. Alright, the Lagna Drekkana. If the Lord of the Lagna Drekkana is strong, well, who is the Lagna Drekkana? It's Jupiter. Jupiter's in a natural friend sign. Jupiter's aspected by two neutrals. So he's so-so. He's relatively strong. He's not super strong. Not enough to make a big stink out of or to expect anything great. Okay? In the dual signs, the three Dekkanas in their order will be bad, average, and good. So, she's got a Pisces Lagna with the first Drekkana rising. And that's the worst Drekkana to have rising in Pisces. It's the most difficult Drekkana in Pisces in that sense. The third Drekkana is the best Drekkana in Pisces. The first Drekkana is the worst Drekkana. Now, of course, Pisces is all about self-abnegation, self-transcendence, finding spiritual peace within ourselves. And the first Drekkana, Pisces, we've read the image, is really going towards that a lot. It wants to, it's capable of making sacrifices. It's traveling the ocean in a boat, so it's making the spiritual, it's on a spiritual quest. But it, according to the image, it's on a, crossing the ocean in a boat in search of jewels for their wife. So that means the jewels they're searching for in their spiritual quest are for an emotional fulfillment, which is different than spiritual fulfillment. So looking for jewels for their wife, they're looking for an emotionally fulfillment. And there's a point in the spiritual quest where we have to let go of our needs for emotional fulfillment, where the only focus is not the wife, but spirit itself. Okay? So the first Drekkana of Pisces has a hard time of letting go of those emotional needs that Pisces really needs to let go of to totally have spiritual bliss. And so it's a harder Drekkana in Pisces than some of the other Drekkanas. So that's, again, where this person has the hard time. They have a hard time letting go of their own personal, egocentric, emotional needs, symbolized by the wife, that holds their Pisces desire for liberation and spiritual transcendence back a little bit. Makes it harder for them. It becomes a bigger struggle. So it's not the easiest Drekkana of Pisces to have. Okay? And let's see what they say about Pisces Drekkana. In the first Drekkana of Pisces is born a fair-skinned person with sweet brown eyes, a wise and grateful man, an intelligent and famous person whose name is Sweet, a happy and well-behaved man who takes pleasure in business and knowledge. That's true for this person. They very much are like that. One will have honey-colored and tawny eyes, be fair in complexion, learn, perform virtuous deeds, yes, happy, pretty decently, will indicate trips by sea, etc., and be modest. Again, most of this is very true for this person. Pretty apt description. You know, these Drekkanas are great descriptions. I'm sure by now you've looked at your chart and other people's charts and got a feel for these Drekkanas. Okay? Recently, this person was in their Jupiter Dasha. Jupiter is one of the better planets in the Drekkana, meaning it's slightly good. It's not wonderful, but it's one of the planets that's actually not disturbed. Okay? And they finished their Jupiter Dasha. Now, Jupiter's in the last Drekkana of Jupiter. Okay? So, that lets us know that the last third of the Jupiter Dasha is going to be the most rewarding with respect to Jupiter's whatever it's trying to do. Okay? So, the last Drekkana of Jupiter the last, part of Dasha, Jupiter Dasha is Jupiter Moon, Jupiter Mars, Jupiter Rahu. Jupiter rules the first house in the Drekkana. So it is a planet about them finding the people, the path of, fulfilling what they hope to achieve in life, the path where they're going to find their best associates for doing so. And in fact, in that last third is when they found that the most. Throughout the first part of Jupiter Dasha, they were constantly frustrated by that. Okay, they were on that quest of finding the right associates to help fulfill their ambitions, which were philosophical Piscean ambitions. Okay? But it was a struggle, and throughout the first 2/3 of Jupiter. In the last third, they actually, found a group that they stayed with. They found the associates in that group more to their way of thinking, had more harmony with them. So definitely Jupiter Dasha helped them more. And again, in the Drekkana, the Lagna Lord is the path of our associates, the path we find our associates on, the place, the path in our journey where we find the people who are going to help us in our life more effectively, if there's any strength. And they did that most in the last third of Jupiter. Okay? Jupiter, of course, also represents wealth. Okay? Financially, they did the best in the last third Dasha of Jupiter, because Jupiter's in the third Drekkana of the third Drekkana of its sign. Okay? Pretty simple. Then let's see if this person has any of this 20-second 20-second Drekkana stuff going on. The 20-second Drekkana Lord for this person, well, the Lagna is at 6 Pisces. So 6 Libra is going to be the 22nd Drekkana. Okay? Which means Libra is the first Drekkana of Libra. So Venus is the Lord of that, their 22nd Drekkana. Venus is in the 7th, and it's debilitated. It's in bad shape. Okay? Venus is also aspected by the Moon to 58 points, which really stars it. It is helped by Mercury a lot, who's going to give it a lot of delight as a natural friend. But then by being debilitated to start with and then being starved by the Moon, it's a troubled Venus. So Venus Dasha can cause a lot of trouble in this person's health and physical body. It has a much, much more greater capacity to cause them to suffer. Okay? Now in Saturn, and again, Saturn gives the effects of Saturn-Venus to some degree. Venus always kicks in somewhat during that period. In Saturn, their health did suffer a lot. Okay, their health took some steps down. Also, you can see Saturn's debilitated in the Rashi chart, which isn't going to help their health either. And Venus is debilitated as well, so that's easy to predict. Anyway, Venus Dasha, will they ever get Venus Dasha in their life? They won't get until they're very old. And honestly, that they won't even be living at that point. Most likely. I haven't done a longevity for this person, but it's not likely that they'll be living by the time Venus Dasha comes into play. But if they are, like I said, I haven't done the person's longevity, I'm not going to do it now. If they were, you can bet that Venus would definitely be the end of them. There's no way this person could cross Venus Dasha. Because it's the 22nd Drekkana Lord, it's the 8th Lord, it's in the 7th, according to that yoga. Again, when the lords of the 8th house and 22nd Drekkana are weak, and in the 6th, 7th, and 8th houses, they cause the destruction of the house during their dashas, and during their respective dashas. So Venus is both of those lords. So Venus will definitely cause them grief. And Venus tends to activate Saturn some, and Saturn's a major death-inflicting planet in this chart too, because he's Saturn in the 2nd house and debilitated, and the 12th lord too. So definitely they won't cross Venus at all. That definitely is a death-inflicting dasha. And I'll have to check their longevity at some point in case they can make it to Venus. They will definitely expire in Venus. Now, let's see something else here. Okay, so that's an example of one of these planets that will definitely cause some trouble. Now, they had Jupiter Dasha. Could Jupiter have been with a 22nd Drekkana Lord to cause trouble? No, because Jupiter's in a good dignity here in the Rashi chart. Jupiter's aspected by only neutrals in the Rashi chart, but he's in good dignity to start with. So Jupiter wouldn't cause that. The current Dasha is Saturn. Saturn Dasha could possibly do that. Saturn's debilitated. Saturn's aspected by his enemy Sun, who's debilitated though, enemy Moon, enemy Mars, but helped by Mercury and Venus. Now Mercury helps. Venus can't because he's debilitated. Mars can't hurt him because he's sleeping. But the Moon can hurt him. The Sun can't because he's sleeping. But still, Saturn's debilitated to start with. And Mercury's not going to help him past that debilitation. So Saturn has some weakness. So if Saturn were the 22nd Drekkana Lord from a house that was in the 6th, 7th, or 8th from, then Saturn could do it. While Saturn's in the 8th from Virgo, the 7th from Libra, and the 6th from Scorpio. So if it's if Saturn is the 22nd Drekkana of any of these Lord of any of these houses, his Dasha is going to destroy that house. Well, the 7th Baba is at 6 degrees of Virgo, which means the 22nd Drekkana is going to be 6 of Aries. 6 of Aries, the Drekkana Lord is Mars. It's the first Drekkana of Aries. So it won't work from there. From Scorpio, the 8th Bhabakas, well, let's find the 8th Bhabakas is at 8 Scorpio. So the first Drekkana of Gemini, because that's the first Drekkana of Scorpio, the first Drekkana of Gemini is the 22nd Drekkana Lord. That's Mercury. So that's not one of them. From Libra, there's no house cusp in Libra, so we don't have to bother with it. Okay? So Saturn's not going to cause the destruction of the 6th or 8th Babas as being the 22nd Drekkana Lord, because he's simply not the 22nd Drekkana Lord. So it's really just this Venus that's the huge troublemaker in having the capacity to destroy something in their life. They're basically their first house, their longevity. So if they do make it to Venus, definitely they'll pass there. K2 Venus could be really problematical if K2 Dasha is going to take them. And again, that would take a little more work than we have time for today. The more I look at this, the more I think they may actually make it to Venus Dasha. Mercury could potentially kill him because it's the 7th Lord, but then Mercury is exalted, so he's not going to be apt to do that. And Mercury is also exalted in the Trim Samsha. So yeah, Mercury is going to they won't expire under Mercury. Okay. Saturn Dasha, we definitely got health problems in Saturn Dasha, which is what they're currently in, because Saturn's debilitated here and he's sleeping in the Trim Samsha. So Saturn Dasha would have to be examined for medium life. But again, I haven't put all the time into this, but they will make it through Mercury. So K2 Venus could do it, possibly, but Venus is a prime killer in this person's chart, for sure. So anyway, pay attention to those 22nd Drekkana Lords. When we do more with longevity, we'll be looking at the 22nd Drekkana Lord in lots of yogas. It just becomes a bigger killer when the planet also rules the 22nd Drekkana Lord. Okay. That should be it for this chart. So this chart's not quite as robust of a Drekkana as the other two charts we looked at. Really mediocre to bad Drekkana. Okay, so enjoy, look at some more Drekkanas, and you'll get a feel for it real quickly. And, a Drekkana is one of the critical Vargas. Happiness with siblings doesn't sound like that big a deal, But when you read the other descriptions that it says happiness with relations, that's a big part of life, how effectively we can do anything with the people we're relating to. And also, planets in their own Drekkanas give virtues, right? Well, virtue is an important quality in life that gives a lot of fulfillment. So, if we have a bad Drekkana, there's going to be a lot of lack in life. That's going to encompass all areas of our life. We won't have the virtues that give us for the fulfillment we're looking for, and we won't harmoniously be able to be productive with the people we associate with. And those are two big deficits to have in life. So you definitely want some power to your Drekkana Varga chart to have a good, fulfilling, active life. Okay? Thank you.